Good morning. Stahl here with Secure the Village, and welcome to our June webinar. It's a very exciting time for us because it's the second of two talks by Dr. Steve Krantz on home and family. So first, Secure the Village. We are a community-based response to the cybersecurity, the cybercrime and privacy crisis that we're in. Our goal is to turn people and organizations into cyber guardians. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We serve the public interest, and we want to acknowledge the generous support of our platinum sponsor, Miller Kaplan. With that, Steve Krantz is our guest the second month in a row, where we're talking about securing the home and the family. So all of you who were here last month met Steve, and you'll get another hour with him in just a moment. And just a reminder, last month's webinar, as well as this month's webinar, and all the slides will be on the Secure the Village website. Look under resources, information security management resource kit. That's where these are included. And with that, Steve, I'm going to turn make you the presenter as soon as I figure out how to do this. Let's see if it doesn't want to work that way. I can make you the presenter this way. Dr. Krantz, you're the presenter. Take it away. And there you go.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Stan, for that introduction. And I'm looking forward to today's hour, the second half of my course on how to secure the village for residents. So let me start off with a cartoon and hopefully put a smile on everyone's face. You reading left to right. It's on the internet. So it must be true. So let's talk about this second half of my 2-hour course. The first hour we covered getting started, introduction, some technology basics, passwords, and the subject of web browsing. In this second hour, I'm going to talk about under topic 5, apps, social media, email, and texting, really the heart of what most of us, almost all of us do in the online world. Topic 6 then veers to a little bit on gaming, a little bit on parenting and working from home. Then to the, probably affects most of us, personal computers. Topic 8 is smart phones and smart homes, and then wind up with finances and files, which is a very important subject with some important messages for everyone. So let's get started. Topic 5, apps, social media, email, and texting. And the first points I want to make with respect to apps. When you install them, it's recommended to stick to either the Apple's App Store or Google Play for any app installation. Be wary if you get an email or you're at a website and they suggest that you install an app from their repository. And the reason is that Apple and Google have standards in terms of what apps they will accept. Apple is more careful versus Google. There's more instances where Google Play has released apps that cause problems and maybe malware in themselves. So be careful. In terms of using apps, you want to minimize or avoid location and contact sharing unless mandatory. And that would be, for example, with for those of you who use Waze, which I do when we going to a new area, of course it utilizes a GPS and can actually route you around various problems that you might meet, such as traffic. So restrict your use to of those features, location sharing and contact sharing, only if mandatory. Also,
that's an important point, Steve, just to stop and emphasize that, because everybody's looking for location data, whether they need it or not. They don't need it typically. And the same with contact sharing. You want to be careful whose information you're sharing out there. So yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. And the last point, if you decide to remove an app, remove your personal data first. Don't leave it in the app if you can. Each app might be different. Maybe they won't allow you to do this, but try. And follow your smartphone instructions for removal. So that's kind of think of this as the life cycle of an app on your, typically your smart device. Social media, which is, I think of that as a subset of the app world. Limit your circles of communication to family, friends, and colleagues. For sure, ignore unknown friend requests. I do that. I just ignore them. I don't know the name, and if it's not compelling, if you don't know the person, avoid it. You want to establish accounts for the major social media apps before a scammer does it for you, because they will then try to represent themselves as you, and that's the key, is protecting. That's one of the ways to protect your identity. Assume everything you post is public, so be careful, because personal information could be used by hackers. It can even be as subtle as geographic information that's associated with any photos you post. You might not be aware of this, but when we take photos with our smart devices, it includes location information. And I remember the first time I became aware of it, I said, how did my iPhone know I was there? And it's all being, in other words, they're associating the GPS info that they've gathered and any other personal information and stored it with the photo. Not every day, but occasionally, review the security and privacy controls on the apps you use. And I just list the major ones there: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. Instagram is very hot. My wife posts regularly on Instagram. She's a chef and loves to show off her wonderful confections, which I'm lucky enough to sample, and I'm happy to do so.
Steve, I want to go back just for a moment again to this. Everything you post is public, because that not only is that true on, for the reasons you said, be careful about that, but we have seen online bank fraud scams occurring because the cyber criminal sees on a Facebook page or a photo posted on Facebook that somebody's not in the office where they happen to be. They know that. Now they know they've got an opening to send, let's say it's the president of a company. Hacker discovers they're someplace other than in the office. They send an email to the CFO pretending to be the president of the company saying, we need you to transfer money from this account to that account. And a CFO or controller or whatever has on occasion sent money out on the basis of those emails. And that all starts by keeping where you are private as best you can. So just want to emphasize and amplify your point there.
And you're exactly right. Thank you, Stan. And finally, on this slide, take care with passwords, as in the passwords topic that I covered last hour, and a reminder about 2FA or two-factor authentication for the social media sites, not only certainly for the financial related sites, the government related sites, also social media. Use two-factor authentication to prevent individuals from or reducing the opportunity for individuals to masquerade as you. Now we come to email, and I use a little icon there, the spam container, as a way of highlighting this slide. And here we look at a pretty ordinary looking email. It's actually one that I received maybe 2-3 years ago now. And you might look at it, casual glance at it, and everything looks fine. However, there's a misspelling, and that's a tip-off. If you see a misspelling from a company like American Express, it just ain't going to happen. They're not going to allow that email to go out. So be sensitive to that. Observe that. tricks. Here we see a web address, and I highlighted the I, the letter I in between American and Express. That's a trick. You know, they'll say, oh, this person, you know, the hacker who is sending you this spam with evil intent will send you this and assume you're going to just skip right over it, and you may indeed. So be aware of that.
Yeah, this is so important.
Sometimes hackers' web address is camouflaged by the correct address. These bums, and what I mean by that is it might not have a wrong spelling in the web address. It might be americanexpress.com. However, that's what it is represented on your screen, but in the actual data, it will be going to, you know, hacker.com. So be very, very careful if you're getting an email and you're not sure about it. And one of the things to do to protect yourself is, if you're not sure, and it's better to err on the side of caution, just go to that americanexpress.com. You enter the address manually, type it in, or go to your bookmarks or your favorites, depending on what your browser calls those, and you take charge, as opposed to letting this link that may be gamed, may be faked, take control. Final thought on this slide, just a mention of ransomware, which has been in the news lately. Businesses have been attacked, individuals have been attacked, and the way it works is you'll make a mistake, you'll click on a link in an email like this, and what happens is malware is downloaded, and ransomware in particular will encrypt your files, and the only way you get them decrypted and getting access again to them is to pay money to that criminal. So be very careful.
Yeah.
Here's an example. This is another email that I received back in 2018, as you can see from the date, from my good friend Yoka, and we get these emails all the time, little newsy, happy little things with links and maybe movie attachments. And Yoka, I know Yoka does this on a regular basis, but this particular email, I looked at that link there, shared that buzz video, and I'm thinking to myself, did that really come from Yoka? And I just was suspicious about it. So there's two messages on this slide that I think are very important. One, be suspicious, and in this case, I called her up. I said, Yoka, didn't you send this? And she said, yeah, so it was okay. But it's a lesson in another of caution, and also it's a lesson when you create an email, you should put enough personal information on it so that your friends who might get it don't realize it is from you. So it's a two-pronged lesson here that I wanted to share with everyone.
Yeah, no, that's critical, and both of those lessons are. It all reminds me of Benjamin Franklin, who said, "Distrust and caution are the parents of security." Distrust and caution, and that's what you're talking about when you see an email like this, Steve. Distrust, be suspicious. Whoa, slow down, take a deep breath. You know.
Exactly. And last but not least, I pop up the top 10 most popular phishing subject line. Phishing is the word for just the kind of it's almost a joke term, but we use it in the security biz, so to speak, for spam emails. It's called phishing, a phishing expedition. And you can see the examples here. And again, I'm not expecting you to memorize those, but the slide deck will be available, and you'll be able to access that. And if you see anything like this in your email, be very, very suspicious. Okay. So to kind of wind up some points about email and phishing, as I define, use your email programs to options to block and reject spam, and the most popular, well-known free email tools like Gmail and Outlook offer it. Again, don't open an attachment that you don't completely trust. Never click on a link unless sure to the source. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're unsure, go from a bookmarked link that you know is good. Use email aliases. This is relatively new. I would be surprised if the majority of you were aware that the email services like Gmail or Outlook offer aliases, which means you can have multiple email addresses that will all kind of funnel everything into your inbox. Use an alias for an important social media account so that it reduces the potential for phishing attacks in that, for that particular site or service. And avoid, if you can, sending personal information via email. Do an annual purge to eliminate any residual personal information if you feel compelled to send it, because your email will typically is stored by, if you're using Gmail or you're using Outlook, the companies don't necessarily encrypt your email, and sometimes they can be hacked, and then your whole archive, your repository of your email is liable to be searched and hacked, and hackers will use it and sell it on the dark web, as I talked about in hour one. And just a final consideration, if email is important, upgrade to business service. You get better support, and it is relatively nominal cost, and it gives you more protection in terms of encryption and service. When you pay for something, you usually get something. So something to consider if email is very, very important to you. Okay, next subject, texting and smishing. I love the word smishing. A smish is phishing, but during texting. It's a hacker's way of sending a text to you, and it's for nefarious purposes. It's useful, but mostly unencrypted. So whatever goes in your text is available for anyone who's eavesdropping. The SMS protocol, which is if you see your texting and you see green background, it will, on your Android or iPhone, it means this is the SMS protocol is being used, and it's unencrypted. And there's a setting that you can use to, if your iPhone to iPhone will give you the iPhone or the Apple messaging protocol, which is encrypted. So you want to maximize that. If most of your colleagues that you text, or your family or friends, are iPhone users, then you can get a little stronger environment for that. And avoid sending private information via text because of the risks of open communication.
Yeah, again, that's vital. Just always be careful, I would say, whenever you're sending sensitive information, right, Steve?
Absolutely. Minimize it. It should be minimized only if you absolutely have to. And so this is just the bullets on the remainder of this chart are it just repeat essentially my verbal comments. If you one click on a link in a smish could infect your smartphone, so don't do it. If you're not sure of the source, don't do it, and you can report them.
Yeah. What's 7726? Who does that go to?
There's an agency that will report that. You caught me short. I don't recall the exact name, but it's in my book.
Okay.
Go to my.
It's a reminder to read your book.
Exactly. Unfortunately, I haven't memorized it. I've just written it.
Understood. Been there, done that.
Okay, here we go. Our topic quiz for those of you, everybody who is out there. Here, question number 21. I should avoid entering online contests and surveys. True or false? And the answer is T, or true. I can trust 22. I can trust my social media accounts to keep my personal information private. True or false? And the answer is false. Be very careful. Question 23, I should establish accounts at major social media apps to protect my identity. True or false? Give you a second or two to think about that. And the answer is, of course, T for true. You should do that, which will prevent, again, a hacker, a scam artist from representing themselves as you. Question 24, I should never click on attachments or links in my email unless I am sure of the source. I hope everyone knows that that is T for true. Question 25, personal email address aliases are useful for each of my online accounts. All financial accounts, all social media accounts, never. What's the answer? And the answer is,
You got ahead of yourself, Dr. Krantz.
no, I didn't. I can't see it. Let me move this. Hold on.
Aha.
There we go.
Okay.
Now, B and C. And when should I send important information? Never. When should I send important personal information in email? A, never. Only to trusted family, only to trusted companies. D, always. Of course, D is wrong. B and C they could be okay, but I would say never. Some of you will do it, and I know I do it on occasion, but the recommendation is avoid it as much as possible.
And that's the critical thing, I think, Steve, is just always be sensitive what you're doing. You may make a decision that isn't the, quote, theoretically correct one in the moment because of exigencies, but those should be the exception rather than the rule. And if you're going to use email for important personal information, learn to encrypt it.
Absolutely. Next set of questions. If email is important, upgrade to business service for nominal cost, true or false? As I said earlier, the answer is T for true. How often should I reduce my stored emails? Never. Quarterly, monthly, annually? D, annually. Number 29, it's okay to send personal information in text to my trusted friends. False, don't do it. And number 30, if smished, forward the message to 7726 to report it, and that is true.
Even though we don't know what 7726 means, go read the book.
Exactly. It is an agency. It is a government agency, but it's the name of it. I apologize. It escapes me on the moment. I should go get. I should have had a copy of my book sitting next to me. I would have looked it up.
Well, hold on. I'm going to look up 7726.
Right. Topic 6. I'm going to briefly touch on gaming, parenting, and working from home. Gamers have the same security issues and concerns as everyone else when they're not playing. So they're really, it's just we're labeling them, but they're pretty common. They experience pretty commonly the same things that we do. But during gameplay, civilized behavior rules may not apply, and hackers will actually steal virtual goods. So game environments are riskier than the non-gaming online world. The reason is that games need, there's a lot of competition in this, so the development of games and the protection of games is not, the developers want to make them safe, but because of their faster paced development environment, they can't always. So there'll be more bugs for hackers to exploit. And the takeaway from this slide is if you're a gamer, document any experience and report it to the game developers. Help them protect you and other gamers is the recommendation.
And I can add in, we've had clients on the Miller Kaplan side who are game developers, and boy, they could really use that input. They need help understanding where bugs might be in their code. And anything, if you're a gamer, definitely report suspicious activity to the developers. Help them help you.
Exactly. Parenting 101. We should be, if we're a parent, be aware, be involved. Set rules, teach, share your physical space where the online activities occur. If able, share the devices, protect your children, monitor their usage. So focus on things like cyberbullying, for example. One very interesting thing I discovered in my research was there's an app called Respond ASAP. It's as at last look, it's Android only, and it's an app that you can install on your phone and on your child's smartphone to maintain contact at all times. It actually compels a response when you say, "Hey, Johnny, where the hell are you?" And Johnny, a lot of times Johnny isn't responsive if he's out with his buddies. But this compels a response before anything else can happen on Johnny's phone. So take a look at that, and then look at the parental control software that are included as standard in most of the major computer systems, like those run by Windows or iOS in your Mac environment.
Cool.
The last point about parenting, which I call it Parenting 102, consider that your children have a legal and financial footprint in the world from birth. If they have a credit report, freeze their credit. And I'm going to talk about that at the end of this presentation about freezing your credit, how important that is. But also don't ignore that your child has a footprint. You want to, if you're freezing yours, you should freeze theirs. Guard their numbers. Educate them about the measures you've taken, and if they're at college age or soon to be college age, protect their FAFSA account, which is a way of applying for scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, moving on in this topic, working from home. I recommend you read my book, Becoming a CyberGuardian, as the goal of the book serves your employers and your personal interests. Of course, use your employer's laptop and smartphone with a virtual private network service when you're connecting. And I would assume that, employers who want to have important things to protect will provide this for you. Of course, keep your software up to date, follow the recommended password and two-factor authentication practices, and set up your modem and router as recommended.
Yeah.
And this is part of my book.
Yeah, this is such an important point because it lives right on the intersection between the worker and the worker from home and the company. And we're finding, and again, we've had several webinars on this, several other go-to-meetings and all. It's really a challenge on the employer's part to provide a secure environment for the worker. And oftentimes that can't be done the way you'd like it to be done. So you're living in a space of necessary compromise. And so it's really important that you as the worker from home and your company, the CIO, CTO, chief security officer, whoever it might be, that you guys work together to get this piece right. It's just, we're seeing phishing attacks exploding, ransomware attacks exploding. Cyber criminals are taking advantage of this work from home environment. So this slide becomes like doubly, triply, quadruply important.
Thank you, Stan.
You got it, Steve.
I'm sorry?
I said you got it, Steve.
Oh, okay. Working from home 102, and these are some, and not ancillary, but follow-up things that the employer should be thinking of when granting you the opportunity to work from home. Ensure that your employer can maintain resource access in the event of your absence, and that should be thought through. Ensure that your remote, if you're using accessing information from your employer's computer systems, make sure that anything you do is backed up and accessible.
Yeah.
Also consider reaching out to your work at home peers to share do's and don'ts, and be careful about your things like smart speakers that you might have in your home if you're discussing confidential work-related items. Okay, topic quiz. Question 1 on this page, it's actually question 31. Gamers should document suspected hacking and report it to developers. True or false? And as we discussed, it is true. If your young children are, this is moving on to parenting, if your young children are online, you should A, trust them, B, buy them their own computer, watch more TV, what's up with that? And D, get involved, and of course it's D, get involved. And lastly, number 33, use your employer's VPN when working remotely. True or false? Of course, that is true. Okay, moving on to topic number 7, personal computers. First up, software must be up to date and use the automatic software updates for your PC or your Mac or your smartphone too. Vulnerability in old apps or operating systems can be exploited. Hackers will, that's what they're doing. They're looking for cracks. They're looking at the attack space, which is the nerd term for how a hacker will look at a software environment. Where can I find a crack in that wall? Where can I find a way to hook my malware on such that it'll be run on your computer? And this includes running antivirus, and it means always, or as often as possible.
And just a shout out on this page, Steve, because you're absolutely right. I mean, this is one of the fundamental pieces of software security protection, information security. One of the things that SecureTheVillage has been doing now for 11 years is publishing a weekly cybersecurity news and weekend patch update. So if you're not sure, oh, does my Adobe Reader need to be patched? Is my Firefox up to date? Whatever. Is my Microsoft operating system up to date? Go to SecureTheVillage.org, sign up on our website. Every Sunday afternoon, you'll get our cybersecurity news of the week, and with it, our weekend patch report that'll tell you what programs on your computer you need to update to stay up to date this way. So just a shout out for that, Steve.
Thank you, Stan. Okay, computer loss. This is protecting the physical access to your device. Make sure anyone that uses your computer, they're using strong passwords. Set it to lock after a short time of inactivity, and actively lock your computer whenever leaving it. Close the lid, might be all it needed, but consider doing that. If stolen, thieves can mine personal data. So consider installing an app called Prey to protect it, so you could control it remotely and shut off that avenue for thieves.
Yeah.
Next, security privacy suites are standard with a typical computer. They'll include things like access control, antivirus, firewalls for Windows, Mac OS, similar. There are competing commercial offerings such as Norton 360, McAfee, Bitdefender, and they're heavily competing against this, what comes with the device, like a Windows PC or a Mac. So they're gonna try to add more value, and they're generally superior to these pre-installed offerings. And I use Norton 360 personally. It comes with a password manager. It comes with virtual private network facilities. So look at that and consider that the cost, which nominally is in the 100 to 150 a year, may be worth your investment. In terms of your computer files, you want them encrypted. You want to use a tool like File Vault or BitLocker, depending on your operating environment. You want to encrypt your fixed disks, your flash drives. Flash drives are vulnerable. They're easy to steal. Only keep the minimum amount of data on that drive and wipe it often. Sorry, I've got a minor interrupt at my home. Sorry. So
Not a problem.
I'm sorry. What's Stan?
Not a problem. Yeah.
Okay. So last stage thought with respect to my computer. How do I dispose of an old one? So first, transfer the files to your new one. There's ways to do that with cables and software. If you're not sure how to do it, get a professional to help. You want to have a complete backup. such as carbonite, which is what I personally use. And you could use that to restore in your new computer. So there's alternate ways to do this. You can erase all contents on your old computer's hard disk. Very, very important. And it's not as obvious as one might think, which would imply just delete everything. That's not going to do it, because if a hard file can be examined by a hacker, or a thief rather, a thief hacker, and they can essentially recover that data that you've erased. There are tools available, and you can see the web address of dban.org as a tool to truly wipe out the content of your computer's disk. And then last but not least, donate it or bequeath your old device to your children. Topic quiz number 34. When should I update my device software? Always be Tuesdays, annually, monthly, always. Take it when your operating system pops up, do it. Antivirus is optional on today's smart devices. True or false? It is false. It's mandatory. You want to use it. My start devices are set to lock up after how much inactivity? A day, 30 minutes, never, a minute. 30 minutes is a good idea. Number 37, encrypt your files. True or false? Of course, it's true. And it is unnecessary to erase my old files on my old device after migrating. True or false? That is false. It's necessary. You want to do it. Okay, topic 8. We move from personal computers to smartphones and smart homes. If I look at phone access, for device security, for the iPhone and the Android, they have common both fingerprint and Face ID capabilities. You want to have a lock screen, and what you can do with that lock screen, as I show here, is a picture of my beautiful wife. That is my lock screen on my phone. Of course, I did change the phone number and the email address, and I have her phone number on my lock screen, and I have my email address. And I recommend that as a way of improving in case you misplace, you leave it at the gym, you leave it in the super, wherever you might leave your smartphone. This will maximize the chance for a good Samaritan to return. In terms of device security, this is a very important point. Get a PIN access code with your phone company. This defeats what's called a SIM swap attack. And a SIM swap attack is when a scammer who has purchased your personal information from the dark web, and sadly it's available, will then be able to represent themselves as you, call your cell phone company, and then get a SIM and say, I need a new SIM for my phone. They send it to him. When he plugs it into his phone, he is now neutral. Your phone is now dead, your physical phone. He is now you, and that can then be used, for example, to defeat two-factor authentication. That's why it's so important to get a PIN access code with your phone.
Yeah, this is one of those vital things, if you will. One of our leadership council members, Attorney Tim Toohey, is representing a victim of SIM swap, plaintiff in a lawsuit against AT&T. His people went into the AT&T store with his information, walked out of the store with a SIM card in their phone that represented him. With that card, they were able to steal $24 million from his Bitcoin wallet, resulting in the lawsuit. You don't want to go through that mess. Just get a PIN code with your phone company. Now you got a measure of protection here. So yeah, Steve, right on here.
Thank you, Stan. I love the anecdote. It's scary.
Total.
Although my other reaction is I wish I had $24 million.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yes.
I don't. In terms of recovering a lost or stolen phone, if it's on and not reset, you have a chance. but that's relatively unlikely, but it's worth a shot. And there are a couple of tools that I mentioned, one for the iPhone, one for the Android, to help locate it and recover it. In terms of app setting for privacy, I think we talked about this earlier. Limit location sharing, limit contacts access. Make sure that you protect yourself in that way, because again, as Stan gave a very good example of if people know where you are, bad people know where you are, and they know you're out, they can come and they can attack your unprotected residence. In terms of scams and robocalls, you want I mean, we're all victims of that. I get 3 or 4 a day. I've already taken some measures, and I mentioned that a little bit, towards the end of this particular slide. My practice is I add all known persons to contacts as soon as possible. If I meet someone, physically or virtually, and I know I'm going to be contacting them down the road, I get their phone number, I add them to my contact. So if they call me, I can then recognize them, their name pops up. Then I just ignore all other calls and texts. Most people already know this. One of the things that you might not know, for example, Verizon offers a call filter app that's free, and it will pop up and say potential scam, as it does on my phone. You can get an enhanced service for $3 a month. I have not experienced that. I'm just reporting it. And the other vendors like T-Mobile, AT&T, Sprint also offer this kind of action.
Yeah, there's a big push to have the FTC instruct the phone companies to include those kinds of spam blocking automatically at no charge, not for $3 a month. But stay tuned on that. We'll have to see what happens.
Let's hope our government does come through on that annoyance protection.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be worse than that. I mean, if not only are you pestered by these, but some people have been truly victimized. Like, I mean, I've gotten calls from the so-called Social Security Service or the IRS, and most of us are aware that these are scams, but some savvy.
That's right.
Again, I'm talking about migration here, like I did on the personal computer. How do I securely migrate from an old phone to a new? I've done it through the in-store migration. Make sure that all information is deleted on your old phone if you're migrating. Any SD or SIM cards are deleted or removed and put in your new phone. Do a factory reset on your old phone, and then recycle or donate, and because you're more likely your children will want your old phone. Smart homes. This is just a general picture to introduce the subject, and there are many ways that we can have a smart home rather. I have several personal experiences, and I'll share them when I talk through the next slide. But you can see just some examples here: smart light bulbs, window shades, the temperature in the home, smart appliances, smart TVs, etc. And what makes them smart is that they communicate over the internet, and they can communicate to you in your smart device. Some personal examples. About a year and a half ago now, I got a Nest thermostat installed for free. It tells me what's going on in my house on my smartphone. I like the fact that I have the ability to say I'm away, or it recognizes that I'm away when my smartphone's left the building, and it'll reduce my use of energy. Another device that I bought really for another purpose, this is over 10 years ago, I bought an Ooma box, OOMA is the company, ooma.com is their web address. And it started off by replacing my landline with an Ooma box. Excellent quality, saved me $25 a month over the rarely used landline account that I had with AT&T. And now they've come up with they're using that box, which plugs into my router in my home, my Wi-Fi router. I invested in a motion sensor, a door sensor, a water sensor, and for a nominal $10 a month, I'm able to monitor that on my smartphone. So good investment, and gives me that security. Another device that's part of my smart home is my smart TV. I've got a Samsung. It connects to my Wi-Fi, and I can get to services like Netflix, Amazon Prime, etc. One of the things that we can be concerned about, though, is that it turns out Samsung is tracking my usage. I didn't know this, and you can call them and turn that off. But that's another example, and I expect to see some progress in smart TVs where we would be able to really get to most services for prospective cord cutting, which is one of the things I'm interested in as a way of saving money. And this is a caution, the point about travel reservations. There's an anecdote that I read about where an individual was making an airline reservation through Alexa. It turned out that the results of the search that Alexa did was scammed, and he bought tickets that were phonies, and it charged his credit card, and he was scammed by not being cautious enough in terms of doing something so important as making an airline reservation. So be careful and how you use it. And just to harken back to my comments about working at home, you want to be careful about having an Alexa in a work at home environment if you're talking confidential information with your colleagues. So the risk in general about smart home devices is personal data leakage to scammers, and there are opportunities for this. And you want to protect your environment, you want to protect your home, and the answer is you want to split up the devices. And here's how I do it. I have a guest network where my smart devices are connected, and then I have my regular Wi-Fi network for my laptops, my smartphones. And you want to isolate to prevent an individual from maybe getting access through one of your smart home devices and then being able to pollute your laptop, your desktop, your smartphone.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the critical things here is just always assume that your internet of your smart home side of the network is compromised, that the bad guys are already in there. So you want to keep them out of your Wi-Fi network with all of your sensitive information, and certainly any work from home stuff. Keep them isolated. They don't belong together.
Exactly, Stan. This is a personal slide that I've added. It's actually not in my book. If you look at that picture in the upper right, there's a chest, a skeleton, looks like an X-ray. It is an X-ray. Not mine, but it's somebody with a device in their chest. I actually have such a device in my chest. I have a defibrillator. I dropped dead on the tennis court about 4 years ago. And luckily, there was a defibrillator at the tennis center. They revived me, and it's 1 in 10 actually survived that experience. So I'm a rare survivor. And now these devices are gaining internet connectivity. Mine does. It communicates via Bluetooth with a device that's connected to my router, and then the information is sent to my cardiologist. So doctors can monitor remotely, hackers can hijack, and if I was, maybe a criminal or a politician subject to attack, I might be at risk. Happily, no attacks have been successful, although proof of concept's been available for years. Just something to think about if you have a smart body, like I do.
Right.
Topic quiz. How can I securely, this is question 39, how can I securely maximize my chances of getting a smartphone returned if I lose it? A, edit my lock screen. with my email address and friend's phone number, install Find My Phone app, Find My Device feature on Androids, or pray loudly, and it's A, B, or C. Number 40, I'm sorry, Stan?
Go ahead.
How do I protect my device from unauthorized use? A, set up a non-obvious passcode. Use touch facial recognition. Set up a simple memorable passcode, or D, do nothing, and it's A and B. Set up a non-obvious passcode for my device and use their facilities for biometric recognition. Next question, only set up location sharing on your device for apps that require it. And that's of course true. Always authorize contact sharing when requested by apps on your smartphone. True or false? And that is definitely false. Only when you feel it's needed. Be very cautious about that. Set up a PIN access code with your phone's service provider as soon as possible. True or false? And that is emphatically true. What should I do to minimize or prevent robocalls? A, ignore callers that are not in your contacts. B, pick up all calls, curse, and hang up. I've done that. C, contact phone service providers for a blocking service. Or D, pick up all calls, threaten to sue, and wait for a response. And the answer is A and C, the logical ones. Number 45, it's unnecessary to erase all files from an old phone when migrating to a new one, and that is false. You want to erase those old files. Next, don't use your voice assistant to find numbers for important calls. That is true. How should I set up my smart home network? A, keep the original, no changes. B, put all Internet of Things or IoT devices on a separate guest network. Or C, each device should be on a separate network. It's B. Okay, last topic, finances and files, a very important topic. And this is really my #1 recommendation. And if you pay attention or you get security briefings or emails, freezing your credit is the consensus and most important thing to do to protect yourself from someone who is seeking to misrepresent themselves as you. And there are 4 credit bureaus you should focus on. Some, I think it's just the top 3, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Innovis is the 4th. They all offer the same capability, which is you register, you freeze, you get a PIN from them, you keep it private, you be careful with it, and you can very conveniently unfreeze if someone needs to get access to your credit rating, if you're taking out a loan or a mortgage, whatever. So you selectively unfreeze for new needs, which is free. It doesn't impact, the freeze doesn't impact prior current creditors. You can get, and of course, get your free reports at annualcreditreport.com. One thing that's relatively new that I just became aware of was getting an IRS IP or identity protection PIN. And that will prevent a scammer from submitting your taxes for you. I mean, this is the time of year now where I would assume most of us or all of us on the call have already filed your taxes. This year, I filed my taxes after I got an IP PIN from the IRS. It's easy to do. You go to irs.gov and follow the commands. And it's pretty easy. I highly recommend it. And when I got my PIN and I entered in TurboTax when I did my taxes, I breathed a sigh of relief. Strong recommendation on that. In general, protect your financial transactions. One thing to do is frequently monitor your financial accounts. I do it daily, and I do it with an app called Quicken. I've used it for over 25 years now, and I would be lost without it. You might consider dedicating a single device to all your financial activities. and set up account alerts for your credit debit cards. That's pretty commonly offered today. I have it with my accounts.
Yeah, that's so easy to do and such peace of mind, because when anything is charged on your credit card, your debit card, and you can do it on your bank accounts as well, oftentimes, you get an alert that something's just happened. That's to be expected. It's the alert you get when you haven't done anything that you want to be most concerned about.
Absolutely, and that has happened to me in years past.
Yeah.
Protecting your identity, consider identity theft insurance, but read the fine print. My understanding is most just cover the costs of remediating your identity, not the losses. Consumer Reports, which is an organization that I've subscribed to their magazine for over 50 years. Per Consumer Reports, it's a waste of money. Less than 1% of the victims suffer any serious loss, and freezing your credit files mitigates the need for this.
That's vital, Steve. Just freeze your credit, freeze your credit, freeze your credit. You know, it's like you keep talking, and I'm with you on that 100%.
Payments, and this might be surprising to some of you. I do most of my payments online. As I talked about last hour, you want to make sure that they're encrypted. Any websites that you deal with, you want them to use the HTTPS protocol. PayPal, I feel, is relatively secure. It's encrypted for transaction privacy. And the most secure way when you're out in the outside world, and you're now with some of us are back buying things in supermarkets and other stores, use the mobile payments capabilities such as Apple Pay or Samsung Pay or Google Pay. Those tools are actually more secure than using a physical credit card.
Yeah.
It's safer, faster, and easier than paying cash or using a card.
And also in today's COVID environment, there's no touching with near field communication. So you've got that added advantage. You don't have to keep your smartphone cleaned that way.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yes. File storage, what to keep and how long to keep it. Here's some recommendations. Email, consider an annual purge. That will minimize risk if you have any personal information, and the storage of your email online is not encrypted. You want to get rid of your browser history and cookies at least annually. And there's the way to do it in Chrome and in Safari. And again, my book will have that so that you'll be able to refer to it when you need it, when you need this advice. In terms of legal, financial, and business records, 3 years minimum, you won't need to keep it. And most of us are going to keep the rest, our personal stuff, forever. So let me do a little bit of a tutorial on the file storage alternatives. And if we look at the left of this slide, the graphic at the bottom left, local storage is the storage on in this case, your laptop. And you can use, many people do a local backup to an external drive, and they're relatively inexpensive, and they plug in with a little cable to your laptop or desktop, and that's the local storage. And of course, your smartphone has its own local storage. To do remote storage or cloud storage involves the internet, as one would expect. And it's done with tools like Cloud Sync and other backup services that put your data on a server in the internet. And you can read through the details here on this slide. I recommend very, very strongly that in terms of backup, you want to use remote backup. It's best for disasters. And for those of you who are Californians, as I assume most of you, if not all of you, are, have we had disasters? Yes. We've had earthquakes, for example. I personally use Carbonite. Cloud solutions are alternatives. My book has some alternatives in a tabular form you can look at. No backup is risky. Local backup is less risky, and it's relatively inexpensive, and it's offered through your standard operating system. But again, you want to have a remote copy in case of this. Last subject, kick in the bucket. And it's the last subject for this presentation, and it's the last subject maybe for our lives. Traditionally, we'll have wills, trusts, etc. And there are tools that you can create those online. I personally have used Quicken Will Maker and Trust in years past. And of course, there's other documents that you can read on this slide. But I'm recommending, in addition, and that's the bottom line, kick the bucket. A letter on the next slide, and we'll talk about that. It's a letter to your heirs. It gives them computer smartphone access instructions. Talks about how to get to critical files, such as tax documents. It'll provide your online accounts, your IDs, your passwords, your PINs for various tools, some of which we've talked about, like password managers, etc. You want to make printed copies, put it in one in your safe deposit box, and another in a safe place in your home. And the next slide, this is information that I just found out about. It's not in my book. There are tools online such as docubank.com or everplans.com that are set up to provide emergency key document storage. So certainly consider that, look at those. They might be helpful to you in your planning for kicking the bucket.
Yeah.
Last quiz, how can I best protect my identity and credit? A, pray frequently at your house of worship. B, freeze your credit at the 4 credit bureaus. C, check your credit annually. D, use cash only, and it's B and C. Freeze your credit at the 4 bureaus, as we emphasized earlier, and check your credit annually, check your credit rating. And number 49, frequently monitor financial accounts and set up automatic alerts. True or false? The answer, of course, is true. How should I protect myself from someone filing my taxes in my name? A, file it early. Get an IP PIN from the IRS. C, make regular estimated tax payments throughout the year. D, become famous. The answer is A and B. File early, get an IP PIN. Number 51, what is the most secure way to pay at the grocery store? A, use cash. B, debit. C, credit. D, use smartphone pay apps, and I'm recommending D. How often should I purge unnecessary files on my device? A, yearly. B, never. C, monthly. D, whenever. A, yearly is a recommendation. 53, what is the best way to back up my personal computer and smartphone files? A, local external drive. B, cloud sync of important files. C, continuous remote backup. And it's C, continuous remote backup of all files. And I mentioned earlier, I used Carbonite and I have recovered. I had a hardware failure on my laptop a few months ago, and I was able to readily recover my data. I was
That's vital.
Last question, how should I communicate my personal online details to my heirs? A, verbally. B, detail letters stored in at least 2 secure places. Or C, sadly, they don't care.
They never write, they never call, you know.
Yes, the answer is B, the kick the bucket letter. Okay, final thoughts coming, winding up. I know I kept you guys a little longer than 1 hour. Secure is a relative term, and there is no completely secure, and that's an important thing to understand and realize. And here I have a table with three aside from the header row, the three different forms of securing yourself. A website login. How do you protect yourself? The most secure is the YubiKey, which I talked about in the last hour. It's a hardware one-time password device. Costs about 50, 60 bucks. You plug it into your laptop, desktop, That's the most secure. Or what I use, I don't have a YubiKey, I use two-factor authentication. That's my Mezzo secure. And the least secure is an ID and a password. And assuming even it's a good password, gives you a sense of the relative security of website login. If I think about networks, the most secure, I want a virtual private network, which will shield my transactions. Even my internet service provider, it's shielded when I use a VPN. Just using my home Wi-Fi and/or cellular data, depending on the device, that's kind of in the middle. The least secure and scarily unsecure is public Wi-Fi.
Yep.
And last line, password. Spotlight's belly rubs on his tummy. That would be the most secure password because it's long and hard to decrypt. The one in the middle, which most of us probably have been using and password managers generate for us, are these, crazy concoctions of various characters. And then the least secure is something like password for your password, which is frankly dopey. Just to give you a sense that there is no completely secure. We need to understand that and just try to do the best we can. Is the message of this slide. I'm going to go real quick because I'm running over. This is a final exam, and you can you'll have access to the slides. They're online at my website and at SecureTheVillage. What's the most secure password? Is it Steve Krantz? Is it Schmutz $11? Is it my dog Spot has fleas on his belly? I think you know that. It's the last one. Public Wi-Fi, even if password protected, is not always safe. True or false? That's true. Mm-hmm. What's a smishing attack? That's when you get a unwanted, unexpected spam text. Be wary. Don't just delete it if it isn't from someone you know. Is it safe to share my location with apps on my phone? Well, I'm making it a binary choice, true or false, and I would say false. If I have to choose between those, I mean, it's relative. I would, and as I recommended, do it judiciously, only with apps that really need to know it. Number
exactly.
5, halfway through, Americans can legally obtain one free credit report. Is that true? And it is true. Last 5 questions. Ransomware involves criminals encrypting and holding users' data hostage until paid. True or false? And it's true. Be careful, be wary. Don't click on links, don't click on attachments from emails that you don't know, or texts that you're not sure of the source. Wi-Fi traffic is encrypted by default on all wireless devices? No, you have to set that up at your home. Make sure it's set up. 8, HTTPS in a URL or a universal resource locator means that information entered into the site is encrypted. True or false? And that is true. You want to make sure your websites that you go to use HTTPS. 9, a VPN minimizes the risk of using insecure Wi-Fi. True. And what is two-factor authentication? That's getting a code. Not only do you use an ID and a password to get into access a website, for example, but you get a separate code on another device. Is the second factor that protects you. It's hard for a scammer to masquerade as you when you're doing that. And that's the final exam. So let me quickly run through the top 10 list. Number 1, freeze your credit. Number 2, set up two-factor authentication. Number 3, set up your home router properly, securely, as you can read there in bullet number 3. Keep your software up to date. Number 5, install antivirus on your computer and smartphone and run them. Long memorable passwords. Don't click. I just said that. I'm repeating myself, but it's a good thing to repeat. Remote backup of your computer files. Create that smartphone lock screen with an alternate phone number and email. And last but not least, to click the bucket letter for your heirs. I've thrown this slide in because it gives me a chuckle. You'll see in the middle. You've got 6 pins. What are the 6 pins? Your Experian freeze pin, your TransUnion freeze pin, your Equifax freeze pin, your Innovis freeze pin. Your cell phone provider PIN. If you're not aware of it, get it. And last but not least, I bet you most of you have never heard of an IRS identity protection PIN from irs.gov. You can see the 5 fingers there. Now there are 6. The must-have 6 pins. Okay, there's a security checklist, 54 do's or don'ts. It's the heart of my book. I recommend you buy it as a reference. Keep it next to your laptop, and
Right.
or just the checklist is available for download at nerdseiview.com. So, become a cyber guardian. Cybercrime is a reality for individuals and businesses. Make yourself hard to impersonate, and that's things like 2-factor authentication and the 6 pins. Know with whom you're communicating, and I took this from Stan, his quote of Ben Franklin: distrust and caution are the parents of security. And last but not least, be prepared. Software updated, data backed up, kick the bucket letter, and if you do that, the bad guys can go away. Any questions? Thanks for attending. There's my email address. There's my book reference. It's on Amazon. It's also mentioned on my website. And for follow-up support, for those of you who thinks, I can't do this myself, I can't migrate my old laptop to my new, or other important questions that you're puzzled about, my son, Jeffrey Krantz. I shamelessly promote his services.
Right. Steve.
Over to you, Stan.
This has been great. So first of all, thank you. I mean, what a tour de force these last 2 hours have been. I encourage everybody, just follow up, follow through with what Steve's talking about. Whether you get a copy of his book, you get the Kindle version, you go it alone, whatever. Use these, get your home, get your family absolutely secured. So this is just one of our normal. This is what you get the second Thursday of every month. Really exciting, practical, real-world, how-to, actionable information to protect yourself, to protect your organization, the second Thursday of every month. Next month, July 9th, stay tuned. It looks like we're either going to have a discussion of the current threat landscape with some law enforcement government folks, or a talk on the NIST cybersecurity framework. But stay tuned. We'll get that up on our website events calendar real soon and start promoting it. Please, if you're interested in cybersecurity, get involved in the Village. You can follow us on LinkedIn. You can get our free weekly news. We've got all kinds of virtual events going on. Check our calendar. If you're a cybersecurity professional yourself, consider whether it's law enforcement, accounting, auditing, or like our firm, Miller Kaplan, information security management, join our leadership council. And if you're looking for a webinar on a particular topic, email us at info@securethevillage.org. Put webinar in the subject. We'll get back to you and start talking about how we can put a webinar together that might fit what your needs are. I mean, we're here to serve the community that way. For more information, here's my contact information, Steve's contact information, and again, just a shout out for our free cybersecurity news of the week and weekend patch report. With that, we've done it. Steve, thank you again so much for this second webinar, and we are adjourned.